Welcome everyone. My name is Cindy Tevens, author of The Happiness Lie, What Generations Have Been Told That Makes You Unhappy, and as well, Alchemy, How to Feel Good No Matter What. Why did I write the books? Why did I write the first book? It was in the middle of my own intense pain and suffering that it flipped over suddenly into joy, love, and peace, and it was mind-blowing, and I was compelled from gratitude and love to begin to speak about what I had learned and to show people that they could do it too. Because we've been lied to. So tonight's topic is the truth about happiness, but the truth is that there's a lie about happiness that we inherit from generation to generation that nobody consciously looks at, but everybody kind of sort of knows. It's just a vague agitation that makes us miserable, and we don't even know what it is, and that's the worst part of it. So I like to talk about, get really specific about what causes our pain and how to stop doing what causes our pain so that you can function better, you can feel better, you can sleep better, you can work better, you can relate to people better. There's just so many benefits to feeling good. One of also is that you are more open to intelligence and wisdom that you don't have when you contract into a tiny little wee being. There's a reason that we call being in a blind rage blind, is because you literally become blind, deaf, and ignorant to other people, to the situation, and to everything else going on around you. And I'd like to welcome the guests who have joined me tonight. Natasha and Lisa, I see. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to just give a little bit more of an intro and then see what our guests have for questions. You can also join me on the website. You can find a live link to the webinar tonight where you can actually watch and also type in the chat box and ask questions if you prefer to interact that way. If you don't have a Google Plus account and you don't want to come on live for some reason, that's another alternative. So the website is alchemylovejoy.com. That's alchemylovejoy.com. So what's alchemy? Some people have heard of it and some people haven't. There's a history of where people used to try and translate lead into gold. That's what they said they were doing on the outside. Really, it was an analogy for human inner transformation, for spiritual work that goes on. And they were sort of forced underground at that time. And so the spiritual inner human transformation work that they were doing was sort of cloaked in this idea of transforming lead into gold. Now, there may have been some people who like that idea also, and we're actually trying to do that, but largely it was a spiritual movement. And so alchemy represents for me a final, fundamental, irreversible transformation, such as lead into gold would be. So just to let everybody know who's joining us tonight, that you are joining us live, and this is a live broadcast, and it is being recorded for YouTube. So we may also be talking about sensitive topics such as suicide, abuse, depression. Just a heads up, but we always will leave it on a good note and show the way out of such problems. So I would just like to open the floor to the guests to see if anybody has any particular burning questions regarding the subject for tonight. You can go ahead and unmute yourself and pose your question. Maybe it's a bit early in the night, so I invite you to think about any questions that you have, and you can unmute yourself at some point if feel free to interrupt, is what I'm saying, for any questions. So what happened to me was truly mind-blowing, because everything I had learned, and where did I learn it from? I learned it from family, from school, from friends, from media, from which includes TV and everything that I read. All of that taught me that happiness comes from something, person, or event. And everybody in society operates that way, even if they don't want to think so, even if they prefer to think that, no, I'm responsible for my happiness, nobody can make me happy and nobody can make me unhappy. The truth is, how people actually behave in life, if you watch, is that they get upset if people say things they don't like, or if things happen that they don't like. And they get happy and excited if something great happens. And it's so built into our society that if you see someone going around happy, you may well ask them, gee, what happened to you? Why are you so happy? See, the why implies there must be a reason, a cause. When in fact, your natural state is happiness, joy, bliss. You don't need anything to be happy. You need actually something to be unhappy, like an unhappy thought you're believing. The saving grace here, though, is that no thought is true. It doesn't matter what the thought is. No thought is true, meaning that it has no reality of its own. It's just a thought. What's a thought? A bunch of words stuck together in a sentence that you can mouth, so you can have these sounds coming out of your mouth. That's the speech of the thought. And so, because that's true, and because it's not the content of the thought that hurts us, if the content of the thought were true, as in some outer reality, that is not what hurts us. The content never hurts us. What hurts us is the thought itself. A bad feeling thought feels bad. A good feeling thought feels good. And so all you have to do to stop feeling bad is to stop touching a bad feeling thought with your power of attention. And we can demonstrate that later on if anybody in the visitors and guests would like to have that demonstration. If anybody is new, I think we have some new people here as well as some seasoned people. So feel free to ask me any questions if I skip something. I don't mind repeating. So, yes, it's the thought itself that we're believing that hurts us. And that's very good news, because we can stop doing it. And it was in the middle of that intense suffering where that's exactly what happened to me. I switched my power of attention from what I didn't want, a thought, a painful thought that I didn't want, onto pleasurable, happy, peaceful, loving thoughts that I did want. And instantly, there was relief. Instantly. And what I discovered was, the longer I did that, the better it felt. There wasn't just relief. The relief became pleasure, joy, love, peace. And it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it grew. And that blew my mind again, because the old information, the lie, the happiness lie, says that you need a thing, a person, or an event to feel good. And so we have what I call the false happiness hierarchy, which means, you know, we get something like an ice cream cone and we can have so much happiness. But when you get a new car, you get that much more happiness, right? And so we have limited our joy based on things, people, or events. And it's completely contrived. It's not real. There is no limit. So what I discovered is that you can feel better and better and better and better in spite of things and for no thing. Just because you have a body mind, you're capable of this. So I fell in love with love, and I pursued love itself, not love of a person or a thing or an event, but just love. And I found it was unlimited, completely and utterly unlimited. And so I went around in the state of love, joy, and peace, and I didn't need or want anything from the outside world anymore. And it doesn't mean you forsake the world. The world still goes on. You function so much better when you don't need anything from the world. When you don't demand anything from the world. So another way to put it is to become so self-fulfilling that you have more to give than to take. It's also very attractive for those of you who are seeking outer love. But I have to tell you that even outer love can't hold a candle to it. Nothing can. And I encourage everybody to explore the possibilities beyond what mind tells you. Because what is mind? It's old conditioning, it's old beliefs you inherited from other people, from previous generations. And just because they believed it doesn't mean it's true. I mean, other generations used to also believe that the Earth was flat. They really believed it. They believed it so badly they would kill people for it. That doesn't make it true or real. So I hope tonight that what can happen here is a little crack in the heart, a little space, maybe a little hope that there is something else possible. Because there is. There absolutely is. It was mind-blowing from the start, and it's still mind-blowing. This is a kind of joy in love that never goes old. I saw an article in the Citizen some time ago about relationships apparently becoming stale after 2 years. I just find that's ridiculous. That's like saying life goes stale after 2 years. You see, what's stale are thoughts. Thoughts become stale and actually even putrid and ugly. And we know where thoughts can go. Everybody's had those crazy thoughts. Having a crazy thought doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It's the capacity of the mind for creativity. Whether or not you believe the thought will color your experience, will give you taste and feeling and perspective. That's what a perspective is. It's holding one thought to be true above another thought, or even all other thoughts. That's all a perspective is. And so to switch your perspective, it's very easy. It helps to shift your state because people tend to believe a thought if it feels bad. And this is very strange to me now, but I remember doing it then. Because it feels so bad, it must be true. But actually, because it feels so bad, it's not true. It's a lie. The truth never hurts. And so we start to use our feeling as a guidance system to notice when we've gone astray and when we've started to believe something that feels bad. And that will free you. They say the truth will free you. It's absolutely true. So,
Cindy,
got a question? Yes?
Yeah, this is Lisa. And first of all, I want to say I read your book, The Happiness Lie, and it has really, really been a huge influence for me. I mean, I've just in the last week, but I have been looking at your website and stuff and just realizing how this really concisely sums up so much of the spiritual teachings that I have been trying to incorporate into my life. It's like a shortcut. But I did have a question because I take tremendous pleasure and joy from so many things, and I know that that's a misnomer to say that those things give me joy. I know they don't now, but I hesitate to give up the absolute thrill I feel when I go out and see my horses, which have been my saving grace through what I've been going through the last couple of years, or walking in the mountains, or those types of things. They're the things. They're the feelings and the thoughts that I summon when I try to do what's on the cheat sheet there. Although I see what you teach, those steps that you teach, allow you to not bury the bad feeling, but to face up to the situation, realize, wow, that isn't really why I feel bad right now. I feel bad because of this thing I believe about it, and now I feel great, and it's got nothing to do with anything that's changed. But I just wonder how you approach things that just genuinely cause a big flutter of joy in your heart. Do you damp those down in order to not get reconnected?
Yeah, no, I'm so impressed, Lisa. You have so gotten the message from the book, from one reading. Very, very unusual, and very good news. And no, you don't. No, don't need to dampen joy. There's nothing wrong with joy. Okay, indulge in it every chance you get. The thing is to recognize the source of the joy. Where is it? So you're with your horses. If you attribute it to the horses, that's where the mistake lies. Okay, be with your horses in the mountains and enjoy it, and recognize, where's the feeling right now? Is it within the horse?
Right, I see.
Is that joy within the horse?
No, of course, it's in my heart.
Yeah, it's within you, yeah. Okay, so if you recognize this and you claim it, instead of projecting it out onto something else, then you'll find that your joy is even more unlimited, is even grander than the idea that it's caused by a horse.
Right.
Okay, so you'll unleash your joy by doing this. All right. If you keep it limited to the horse, you're participating in the happiness hierarchy, which says, well, with the horses I can feel this good. With the mountains I can feel this good. And it is a limit. I know it's good, but it's a limit. And I'm telling you, you are capable of still so much more joy than you have lived or imagined, even with the horses, even with the mountains. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So don't limit yourself. Recognize the joy is within. And it is your nature. You've just gotten out of the way of it. You had a rule that says, I don't feel as good normally as when I'm with the horses. So you've got this rule in place. Now you get with the horses, the rule goes away, and you can access your natural joy. But you can also do that when you're not with the horses. Okay?
Right.
It doesn't mean you'll do it. It doesn't mean it'll happen less with the horses. It just means it'll happen more and more and more often, all the time. And it doesn't diminish the horses either. Okay.
What has also been helpful is the flip side. I had my elderly parents move in with me a couple of years ago, and that's been a huge struggle. And now when I see the flip side of my happiness does not, or unhappiness I should say, doesn't come from them in the situation, by the same token, I can't be responsible for their happiness, which is what I've been trying to do. So this is like a double whammy for me. I get to not only get to be happy regardless of how things are going here, I also can just sit back and say, you know, it's okay to be happy, even though Dad just doesn't, there's nothing I can do to make him happy, because literally there is nothing I can do to make him happy. And I know that now. And I knew it in my head, but now I know it for a fact.
Very good. Very well done. Yes. And you know what? The best thing you can do for him is to be happy, because it doesn't serve him for you to be unhappy, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you almost, have a responsibility to be happy.
Right.
Yeah. Well done. Well done.
So I just want to thank you. I don't want to take up all the time, but I just wanted to tell you this has made a huge change, and I really appreciate you sharing this with the world.
Thank you so much for coming in and giving us that great news. I really do appreciate you taking the time. So.
You're welcome.
Enjoy the joy just because you can. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. So wow. She taught you better than I did. What can I say now? Before I continue, I'll just ask if there's anybody else out there who has any questions and or comments. All right. So, what a fabulous learning. And I'm sure many people out there are relating where they have had this stuff in their head mentally, as they know that this is true, and something feels off and don't know quite what it is. And what they're waiting for is to have it in their own direct experience. I was working with a client the other day in Germany through Skype who said, I'd love to know that I'm the authority, that I'm the one who puts my power of attention on thoughts. and therefore experiences them. And he said, when I have the experience, I'll know. And so what does he put in front of himself now? What he's put in front of himself is a rule, is a limit, is a stumbling block, which says, it's a catch-22. Because you won't have the experience until you stand in your authority and say, this is true, this is the way it is. That yes, I recognize I'm the one that's doing that, that is what causes my pain. When I don't do it, it goes away. And everybody can have this experience, and everybody has had this experience. But it's not been recognized. It's not been stood up for in your authority. And until you do, you're going to have this experience as if you're out of control. You're not out of control. You're making the rules. So which rules do you really want to have once you realize this? So granted, I understand having the direct experience nails it for you. And then you can really proceed. And so I urge everybody to go and seek the experience, either on your own or with a guided session with me, or with someone else even. Someone else walking you through the questions. But how many times do you have to have it? You know, some people will have to have it once, and that's it. They're happy with that, and they run with it, and they say, yes, I'm the authority. Even if I'm in pain right now, I recognize still it's not somebody else out there. I'm not going to put that on anything or anybody. Refuse to, so you don't. You hold back, you don't touch that thought. Even though it might be floating around in the air somewhere, and you just, no, you don't believe it. You just don't believe it. And how many times do you need? Maybe 2, 3 times. Maybe you need one really big one. Is that what your rule is? Ultimately, you don't need anything. You could, from this conversation forward, from this webinar forward, stand in your authority and refuse to blame anything or anybody else. And that's what happened to me. In the midst of my own intense suffering, 2 things happened. This is why I call it the alchemy of love and joy. The love is I refuse to blame anybody else in any way, shape, or form. Not with my thoughts, not with my words, not with my actions, not with my energy. And the second was joy. I'd had enough pain. And it wasn't just I wanted to feel good. I came to a point of 0 tolerance. No more. I'm done. Well, it was either that or kill myself. And I couldn't kill myself because I promised my father, who had committed suicide, that his pain and suffering would not be for nothing. So that was out of the option. So there I was, not knowing what to do, because normally we are taught to blame everybody. Must be somebody's fault. If it isn't anybody in your direct experience, then it's got to be, you know, you were the 3rd child of 6 and you got neglected or something. Gee, I wonder about the 6th child. Or it was another life. Or, you know, we have so many. When we start looking for the reasons why, you find them, because mind has got this creative, this amazing creative capacity. And if you send it out there to find you a reason, guess what? You're going to find them. You're going to create them where they're not there. That's how powerful you are. You're so powerful that you can believe that you're not powerful. The people who suffer the most are the ones who have taken it beyond things, people, or events. The ones in really serious trouble. They started with things, people, or events, and they started feeling really bad. And it spiraled downward, because that's what suffering does. It tends to, unless you pull yourself back out and don't touch a bad feeling thought, more bad feeling thoughts will come, because you become a bad feeling thought magnet when you feel bad. And when it goes from blaming things, people, or events to actually blaming yourself, is when people get in serious trouble. This is when they become depressed. They become tied up in a knot, in a circle that they can't get out of because they can't blame anything. But they can't see that they're doing this to themselves either. And the pain can become excruciating. The thoughts can become ridiculous. But you feel so bad that you believe them. Remember this. Just because you feel bad doesn't mean the thought is true. Actually, it means it's untrue. So stop believing every thought that arises. Actually, you don't have to believe any thought. No thought is true. It's just a thought. No thought is true, but every thought that you believe and you put your power of attention on, you experience. So if you're hating somebody, you're the recipient of the hate. If you're loving somebody, you're the recipient of the love. If you're judging somebody, you're the recipient of the judgment. It's sort of like, holding onto a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at somebody, but you're the one getting burned. And there is no coal and you can't throw it in any case. So nobody's ever hurt you in any way. Nobody can hurt you, just like nobody can make you happy. And the quicker you come to this deep seeing and realization and understanding, the quicker you'll be happy and free. And the less you will contribute to other people's suffering and pain and unconsciousness. So whatever why you find to do this, whatever reason or purpose you have, take it to the max. Don't sit on the fence and say that's true sometimes but not others. Once you've seen this, accept it. Act from it. And if you're feeling bad, it's because you're not accepting it, you're not acting from it. You have believed something that isn't true. Any questions? I'm not sure if we have lost one or two of our guests. I think Lisa's still there listening. All right. So how do you do this? Easy to say and talk about it. And most people try to do it mentally. Oh, we got somebody coming on. You have a question? No? Okay. I'm just going to mute you, Lisa. So most people try to do this mentally, And what that's actually called is called positive thinking. So you're trying to take a bad state, a bad feeling, and you're trying to force a positive thought on top of it. Anybody ever try this? It's excruciating. I tried it. I believed it, so I really tried it. I tried it so hard and so long. And the longer and harder I tried, the worse I felt. It was excruciating. So I just stopped. It didn't work. It caused more pain. I felt like a fraud. It wasn't real. So I abandoned it. Because what I found is when you feel good first, good thoughts come to you easily and effortlessly. But I learned that the hard way, because nobody was there to tell me that this is possible. So, how do you do this? Don't think about it. When some people first learn about the practice and they start to use it, they'll try and come up with a thought, which we do. We ask the question, what do I want? So we're coming up with a want. And that's going to be a thing, a person, or an event. Yeah, I know things, person, or events don't make you happy, so why are we asking that question? That's as Lisa said, so that you can face directly what it is that you want. You need to face it to actually see what it is. And the really funny thing is that the large portion of the time when I ask people this, they don't actually know what they want. They have a really hard time coming up with what they want. And when they come up with what they think they want, it's not actually what they want. It's they want to be bigger than it, or they want to transcend it, or turn it into something else. It's almost like they don't want to look at it. They don't want to look at what I want, because it might reveal something about me. So, what you want? You've got somebody opening the sound. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to mention one of my friends. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
She's been homeschooling, and her husband runs a business. I think it's like a Chinese restaurant in Ottawa. And I think his business partner must have just left or something. And so he asked her if she could kind of replace this person and just basically run that whole part of it. And I think part of her wants to do it, but then part of her's torn because she really enjoys homeschooling and it's where her heart is. She has like her oldest will be going into grade 7, and then she has her daughter's the same age as my daughter, so she's like going into grade 1, I guess, and then she has a preschooler. So she's not too concerned about her oldest. It's more the younger two that her heart is sort of kind of just sad for them, I guess. So anyway, I just did a Facebook chat with her today, and I gave her some tips, and I just said, at the end, maybe it might help you if you actually write out on paper what it is you want and what it is your husband wants. And then I said somewhere in that is the truth of what you really want, right? So, because rather than having it all stuck in your head, because I know that happens to me, I get stuff stuck in my head and then it just seems to get a mess sometimes. So I didn't get into too much, but she's a Christian as well, so I just sort of said some other stuff related to that for her to help her. So I think it helped her because later I saw her post on one of the homeschool groups that asking people about this independent self-learning center in Ottawa, anybody's opinions about it. So she's obviously maybe looking that way. And I also said to her, in some of these homeschool groups, people can be really negative about school. Not everybody, but some people can have really strong opinions. And, others can sort of take that on. And so I just said, don't listen to anyone's judgments or worry about that possibility of people judging you if you put your kids in school. And I said, just do what you know is right for you and your husband and obviously your kids. And I said, school isn't all bad. I said, there are good and bad schools. I said, there's good and bad teachers. And I said, just pray for God to help you go to the right one and just to focus on what you want and not all the other mess in there. Because I find people when they're kind of stuck, when they're in homeschooling, it's sort of, if you want to get out, you sort of feel like you're going to be judged from leaving it. Although that shouldn't be part of the decision-making process, but sometimes it is, right? So anyway, I don't know, maybe I should have said to her to think about what she doesn't want, and that might have helped her flip what she does want to. I don't know, but
yeah, okay.
Helping other people, sometimes I get kind of stuck sometimes.
Yes, most people do. And one of the best ways to end somebody else's suffering is to end your own. So before anybody tries to help anybody else, they should clean up and clear up their own pain and suffering within. And then wisdom will come from you that you couldn't have known. You couldn't have possibly known. I'm just going to mute you for a sec because we're getting a lot of noise. So, and I'm gonna address that, and you nailed it there. The alchemy is not so much about looking at different options in life as to looking at the sufferings that go on the inside. When you take care of the inside, the outside takes care of itself almost automatically. And so she was feeling some form, and we don't know because this is third person. And I don't ever work with third person, it's not possible. But just, as a topic of conversation, she's got some bad feeling. There's a torn feeling inside, and not so much what she does want, but at that point it would be, what doesn't she want? What is she afraid of? And then you find what you want. So I don't often encourage people to discover what they don't want. There are some exceptions, because that just puts them in the direction of suffering and pain. But if they're working with me, and I have them, I can, and they're having difficulty finding what it is that they do want on the inside, then I will do that. And I'll ask them, so what is it that you don't want? And I heard from you the word judged, so a fear of being judged. And of course, the shortcut alchemy answer to that is nobody judges you. It's impossible. Only you can judge you. But to have that depth of understanding, you go through the practice. Say, so what don't you want, if you need to say that, but I really, really encourage you to stay with what you do want. It may take some time, but the practice is good because we have been so good at suffering. We've been so good at knowing what we don't want. And when I work with people and I ask them, what do you want? Like I said before, they don't know. It takes them a long time. Sometimes they never get the answer, and I have to offer suggestions. And they go, oh yeah, that's it. So finding out what you don't want and then quickly turning it around into what you do want. And even when people discover what they don't want, sometimes they still don't get what they do want. They're still trying to be bigger than it or trying to make it into something else. For example, I had a woman who had a lunch with a bunch of other women, and they were all and having conversations and chit-chatting, and she was there in the corner, quiet, feeling very unhappy. And then I asked her, what do you want? She'd worked with me long enough to know that she wanted a thing, a person, an event, and that she couldn't come up with something, you know, trying to be bigger than it. So she said, yeah, well, you know, honestly, I wanted attention. And then she said, but I shouldn't want attention. I said, okay, so you've got yourself in a bind now. Because you want attention, you think you shouldn't want it. The truth is, though, that there's nothing wrong with wanting attention. You're a part of this universe, inseparable. Nothing wrong with it. What may be wrong is the way you go about trying to get attention, trying to manipulate things, you know, strategize. And this is why the practice is so powerful, because then the next question is, okay, so you want attention. We answer this without judging it. We accept whatever comes up. And we're looking directly at it. Yeah, that's why I'm feeling bad, because I want attention. Okay. And you're not getting it. Okay. So, second question, how does it feel? How does having attention feel? And right away she tapped into everything she did want. Even before she said it, she was feeling it. Ah, well, it feels like, you know, connected, feels involved, feels listened to, like I exist, feels appreciated. She was just writing them off. Great. Now you start to, so that's the mental answer. You've already started to feel it a little bit. And now you ask the body how those things feel. How does being connected feel? How does being involved feel? How does being, you know, like you exist feel? And you look for the feeling in the body. And that's where mind stops. Because you don't feel with the mind. You feel with the body, the whole. And you notice the feeling, and that you prefer the feeling. That's the third question. And then you enjoy the feeling, and then you appreciate it. And as you alternate enjoying and appreciating it, something happens. Everybody needs to actually have this experience. It's good to be hearing how it goes, but to have this actual experience. And you start to feel connected. Instead of demanding connection from the outside in some way that they don't know you need, that they're oblivious to because it's all going on in here, you give it to yourself. You become self-fulfilling. So feeling connected, feeling, you know, involved, how do you act? You act connected and involved, and how much more likely is that to get you the outer connection and involvement that you want. You see, we've had it backwards. We go around trying to manipulate the outside to get what we think we need so we can feel good, when it's actually the other way around. You feel good first. And everything on the outside, it either disappears, dissolves, you realize, oh, it never happened. It wasn't them ignoring me, it was me ignoring them. And this is the ultimate in forgiveness. There is nothing to forgive. You realize it didn't happen. You forgive them, you forgive yourself, it's all over. Like it never happened. And all that's left is love, joy, and compassion. So that's the power of shifting your state, to give you access to this wisdom, to realize that everything you were believing was what was causing you pain, not what's going on outside of you. So, with regard to you, you hear your friend talking about this, if you buy into it and you believe her suffering about being judged and her fear about being judged because there's something there for you, you need to clean that up out of you so you don't even see it. Because if you see it, you're supporting it. And this is what goes on in our society. We are supporting each other's suffering. Someone will say, oh, this happened, and it's really, and you'll say, oh, it's really awful. That shouldn't have happened. You're supporting the suffering. And so this is the collective unconsciousness. This is why I say the most important thing that you can do to help another and their suffering is to end your own. And you may find yourself in uncharted territory. You may not know what to say because you won't have in your arsenal something that you used to say, that you habitually would have said. So you may sort of, and that's good because that's an open space for something else to come in that you would have never thought of before. And it'll be much more wise, much more compassionate, much more positive, much more useful. It just certainly won't support the suffering. And even just not supporting the suffering is fantastic. So it is possible to be in someone's presence who's suffering, not buy into the suffering, not fall into it yourself in any way, shape, or form, and just hold the space. Maybe they will shift. And I've actually had this experience in the situation of someone where there was an ongoing suicide attempt. And this is before I had suicide intervention training. And I didn't know what I know now. But I just held the space. I didn't add to the suffering. I didn't say they shouldn't suffer, because they are. But I held the space and the door open for other possibilities. And they talked themselves out of it. The worst thing you can do with someone is argue with them and say, no, you shouldn't feel that way. Yes. Think about this instead. You are completely out of sync with the person. They think you don't care, you don't understand, you don't get it. And that's usually what we do. Either we support the suffering or we try to tell them, just wake up. A lot of good, a lot of compassion, a lot of love. No. There's alternatives. But you won't know them until you shift your own state first. You won't have access to them. And once you start to do this, then you will. It will come easier. It's like any muscle that you use. Your happiness neurology gets easier to light up if you've been feeling primarily good most of your life, and if you've been suffering most of your life. It's very hard at first to light it up. That's because you have all these heavy beliefs in the way about yourself or other people or the world. And what I do when I work with people is we do a little emotional surgery and we remove all of those because we through the questioning discover they're not true. And in the seeing that they're not true, they fall away. I mean, why would you keep something that's not true? You wouldn't. You're a rational person. You want to feel good. Everybody wants to feel good. This is universal. It's just that you didn't have access to the knowledge that is always here for you, the wisdom that is always here for you. Because you weren't looking at it, because you're looking at something else. So your power of attention is such that it contracts down onto things. And if it contracts very powerfully down onto one thing, then it misses everything else, practically. And so what I teach is, first of all, A, that you have a power of attention and what it is, how it goes on autopilot if you are not taking conscious control of it and using it in the way that it's meant to be used. And B, that you shift it. Learn that power of attention not only can narrow, but can open. And opening is where the wisdom is. Opening is where the peace is. Opening is where the joy is. It's always there. It's just you're either contracting or not. Your natural state is not contracted. Your natural effortless state is fully open. When you resist something in life that is, you're contracting. And so a lot of people have heard the spiritual words, you know, to accept what is. Well, how do you do this accepting? How do you do this non-accepting? This is it. Your power of attention, contracting down onto a thought that doesn't accept what is. And so it's very tangible, very practical, very applicable. It's not, you know, ethereal and general and conceptual. Concepts are where we get in trouble, because when you believe a concept, then you have a problem. But if you look at reality, which is not conceptual, there are no problems. You know, if your basement has a leak, you take action. You don't sit around and moan and groan, oh, basement is leaking, you know. That wouldn't do a lot of good for the leak. But with mental emotional suffering, there is nothing real. There's nothing concrete. It's just all concept. And you can fight and struggle around in the conceptual realm forever. Or just stop. I think somebody's opened the mic. Anybody have a question, or we're just getting static? Not sure what that is. So does anybody have a question, comment, something they'd like to work with? We only have 10 minutes left, so I won't actually do the practice with anybody. Well, it looks like Isabel. I have a new chat message. Hang on.
Oh, there.
Hello.
Hello.
I can hear you now. Welcome.
Thank you, Cindy. And this is actually really exciting. This is my first webinar,
Hey.
and it was very interesting actually to hear your philosophy about happiness. I had the chance to download your book, The Happiness Lie. Unfortunately, I didn't have the time to read it all. I'm just gonna quote some things that you said, and to be honest, I feel very identified with what you said about being, you know, I feel my life to be like a leaky basement. But I just want to know, like you said, there's nothing wrong with wanting attention, and in my case, not really attention. But what do you think about secrets that make you unhappy? There's issues, you know, that I've been going through, and I feel that those secrets are kind of like building, you know, piling up, and I feel like if they come out, a lot of people can get hurt. And in that sense, I feel that I, I feel that I'm gonna be selfish if I actually say something in order for me to be happy, 100% happy. Because I do feel like, I have a happy life. I enjoy my everyday, but I try that secret to just go away, and I just put it away a lot every day, you know. But every time I just stop, I think about it and I feel super depressed. Um, I just don't know what to do with it because uh, it's just not going away. And I just don't know what to do about it. It's kind of hard to explain because there's a lot more details on that, but I don't know. I just wanted to hear any insights from you, maybe.
Okay, all right. I'm just going to mute you to keep the noise level down. Thank you. And we can get you to come back certainly if you need to and want to. So, yeah, secrets. I'm assuming these are your secrets, not somebody else's secrets that you're holding from other people, right? And you said that it would feel selfish for you to be happy. I would never agree with that. It's never a selfish thing to be happy. Not at someone else's expense if you consciously know that that's happening. For example, if you steal from the poor or something, and you think that makes you happy, it doesn't actually. There's always a bad taste in your mouth. And I think this is what you're experiencing is, on the one hand, you think that it's better to hold the secrets, but there's a bad taste in your mouth. So the thing is, I would never look at something and try to make a decision or make a move on it when you're feeling bad. And obviously, you're feeling bad. You said it can be super depressing, and I get that. And so, what you need to do is come clean within yourself with it, shift your state, so that you can have access to wisdom and knowledge, and you'll know the best thing to do. I never tell people what to do. I just walk them through the process, and they come out the other end and they go, oh, yeah, okay. Either they realize there's nothing to do, or they know exactly what to do, at least in the first step. And that's how life unfolds. It's always step by step. We never make a leap to an end or an arrival. We think we're going in a certain direction, and we take one step, and then we find we're taking a different step, and a different step, and a different step. So there's no fear necessary or concern necessary about arriving somewhere. Life tends to unfold and take care of itself, and you're not actually making a decision here. The decision becomes known to you. Nobody's ever actually making a decision. What happens is everything happens, and then you find yourself taking action, and then thought comes in and says, yeah, I decided to do that. So it's like a little peanut gallery commentary. It's always after the fact. You will know what to do when the time is right. But the time is right includes clearing up your own space. So you think that it's selfish for you to be happy. Could that be underestimating other people? Could that be underestimating other people? And who are you to make the decision for them? Who are you to decide that that's true for them, that you would be underestimating them? These are questions that I might ask you if we were actually doing a session, but I would ask you from a good state, when you were in a good state. I would ask you some other questions as well. So what you really need to do is do the practice. So I would ask you, what do you want? And you may be tempted to say, I want everybody to be happy. And it sounds like that's what you're doing. Is you want everybody to be happy, so you're trying to make them happy, and you can't. This is impossible. And so you want everybody to be happy, so you sacrifice yourself. I'm going a little bit on a limb here because I don't know the details, but this is sort of what it sounds like. And we can maybe get you back on and see if you have any comments on that. So, and that's not really what you want. Yeah, ultimately everybody wants everybody to be happy, but that's not what you're attached to. And this is about attachment and clearing the attachments. So here's an example of where I would ask you, what don't you want? See, what are you afraid of? Are you afraid of rejection? Are you really afraid of somebody else feeling bad? You don't know that they will. You can't know. If you're afraid of somebody else feeling bad, does it really mean that you're afraid of how they're going to react to you? They're going to judge you. See, so to find out what it is you're actually wanting, it might be acceptance. You want them to accept you as you are. You want them to accept your secrets. I don't know. You will know. So you need to do this introspection to find out what you don't want, what really is bugging you the most. And then take that and turn it around. It's going to be the opposite of that, of what you do want. So if it's for them to accept you, that's the answer. I want them to accept me. I want them to know the truth about me and accept me as I am. How does that feel? How does them knowing the truth about you and accepting you as you are feel? And shift into that. I'd have to do some more work to show you how to do that fully. What I would like to see is that you fully get into the state before we continue with the rest of the questions. But if you just do this work on your own and really explore how what you want feels in every way, you'll notice thoughts and feelings and images and ideas. That's okay. Allow anything that that supports it to come, and ignore anything else. And really engage in how it feels to be accepted as you are, if that is what your answer is. And that state will inform you what to do next, if anything. And so that if you ever do come out with something you would like people to know, it comes from that state where you accept yourself, that you are giving yourself the acceptance, you are feeling it. And if you're feeling it, how much more likely are they to feel it? Yes, they may not be happy, they may not accept whatever it is. But as long as you fully fulfill yourself, it won't matter. And you're not responsible for them, they're responsible for themselves. And I'm getting a chat box from her. She's saying, thank you, that was perfect, very good. Glad I could help. You might want to follow up with me later on another webinar, or join the Inner Alcove where you get weekly teleclasses. I'd like to hear how you fare with this, what your report is after you fully, completely shift your state. Thank you. And with that, it is 10:00. So time flies when you're having fun. I want to thank everybody for joining me this evening. I am going to open the floor just for one more moment to see if there are any other questions with anything we spoke about since we last opened the floor, and see what happens there. So come on in if you'd like a question or comment. Getting a message from Lisa. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining. Okay, I guess we're good. So for now, enjoy the joy just because you can. No other reason. Just because you can. Isn't that good enough? Isn't that wonderful?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a great week or month till the next time. Very welcome, Isabel. You're welcome.